You know what's awesome about MIDI is I can play everything in the key of C and only use the white keys and then just drag and drop. And so I can be the shittiest keyboard player ever. Like I basically just play only the black keys or only the white keys.
Keyboard's so easy, guys.
Dude, it's not easy, but it's easy to manipulate.
Yes.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. This is episode number 53, and my name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with Randall Nolery.
Hey everybody.
And John Hines.
Hey there.
And this is season 2, baby. We're starting on the second year of the podcast. I can't believe we've been doing this for a year, guys, but super pumped to be still chipping away, still in quarantine, but still playing a bunch of video games. How you guys doing?
Good.
Holding
we got
together.
through our pilot season. This season, we got a few more episodes. You know, they like what they see. You know, if we do well this season, maybe
We'll do some.
Yeah,
We've have some gimmicks.
changed- Yeah, no less gimmicks. I think we've changed some things up. We got no game of the week, no game of the month. You know, we got a couple resolutions. We got a game of the year, and that's about it. We're gonna play one game a year that we commit to, and then other than that, we're just gonna play whatever the hell we want and
Did
talk
we commit
about
to
it.
it?
So, well, with our resolution games, hey, I'm gonna play Undertale eventually.
But you need to buy it
Eventually.
first.
You know what? So why don't we get into it? So I've been pestering Randall for a while to sign up for Xbox Game Pass. And because he finally did, I actually upgraded my account back to the Xbox. So I started with the PC Game Pass account. Then I changed it to a console-only Game Pass account, which is either one's $10 a month. But by upgrading to Game Pass Ultimate, I now have PC and Xbox on the console and Xbox Live Gold for $15 a month. But for 3 months, I got the promo for $1. So I'm paying $3 for the next 3 months to be able to play online, which I didn't have the ability to do before.
Right.
But since they added Streets of Rage 4, which Randall and I were both itching to play. Randall has a physical copy on the way, I think, on the Switch. But
it's not even quite on the way yet, unfortunately.
Oh, really? Man.
Yeah, it's pre-ordered. I'm the biggest Streets of Rage fan that I know. Well, my wife and I, we play Streets of Rage 2.
You introduced me, yeah.
Yeah, every year we play Streets of Rage 2. It's one of our games. That and Toe Jam and Earl are probably the games we play together most often, and both consequently on Sega Genesis, and I would say both probably my favorite games on Sega Genesis, and some of my favorite retro games, period, especially Streets of Rage 2.
Oh, yeah.
So when they announced Streets of Rage 4, I was psyched. I was so psyched. And at first, a little bit wary of the style, right? The art style. I'm like, yeah, this is different, right? I
had the same exact reservations.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know, this is different. This doesn't, Streets of Rage is supposed to be kind of a little bit kind of gritty, but also kind of corny at the same time. And this seems like it's just, it's lush animation, or at least what they showed early kind of seemed more colorful than maybe Streets of Rage should be. But then, fast forward however many months, it finally gets released. I can't play it because I'm waiting on my physical copy from Limited Run, and I'm going nuts because it's getting amazing reviews on top of everything else. And shit. And it's on Game Pass. Okay. Kevin's been hammering me about Game Pass forever. So, okay, all right, fine, Kevin. I'll sign up for Game Pass. It's $1 for the first month. I didn't get that 3-month deal for some reason.
Maybe that's only a promo for existing members or something, but I definitely got a 3-month deal. So
maybe when Fiona signed me up for Game Pass, that was a 3-month deal. I canceled it. I don't know.
Nice. See, she knew all along.
I should have stuck with that one. But then, I signed back up because, okay, we got it. Tina and I have to play Streets of Rage 4. And if I do this Game Pass trial, we can do that right now, let alone waiting for the physical. So we did. And I've played it and I've beat it. And it's awesome.
What?
Yes.
Heck yeah, because you and I played some online. Like I said, I upgraded my account just so that we could. I played like a level or two.
Yeah.
And then you and I played through like the first 8 levels or so?
Yeah, I would say.
Because I remember thinking like, this should be the last level. And then I was like, what are they doing? This is not a retro game. There's always 8 levels in a retro game.
Yeah, like I think the older Streets of Rage, typically had like 8 or 9
like
levels.
7 or 8, or maybe 9, like a boss kind of stage,
Yeah, and that's kind of what I expected too when we were first playing through it, and like, ooh, okay. And there's kind of this like overworld screen, which is really cool and like well drawn, where it shows you, and it kind of follows this corny but fun story where like you go from here to here and you get on a plane and the plane crashes and now you're on an island in the middle of the water in the city, and then you go from da 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 and fight on the bridge, yada yada. And it keeps going, and like there's more levels than you think. There's 13, at least for now. The other cool thing about this game is that there's unlockables, a lot of unlockable characters.
Tons of unlockable characters. As in, like, you can, I believe, unlock every character from the previous, like the models from each game with the pixel art and everything, but also the move sets as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they knew what they were getting into. The developer is Guard Crush Games, which I'd never heard of before. It looks like it's a trio of people primarily that developed this thing, in working with Sega of Japan with their blessing, to make it. And I'm like, so pleased that they did. And they worked with Lizard Cube, I think, is the one that did like the art primarily and the animation, and they also did the Wonder Boy Dragon Strap.
Okay, nice. Yeah, definitely. I can see that. Yeah.
And that animation style, it really grew on me. Like the lush animations and how it feels while you're playing it, and some of the animation priority stuff just feels great. I like it a lot now. Yeah,
it's a testament to the amount of detail. Like I was watching a video, it was just a review of the game, I think, and they were mentioning like all the little stuff, like where there's like the street lamps and there's like little flies like buzzing around the street lamp. Like, the environments just feel alive. Like, the backgrounds are constantly moving. There's kind of like some parallax scrolling going on.
Yep.
Like there was a level where we were like on top of a moving like rail car, like kind of like an L train, and like jumping over stuff which I'd missed every single jump. Hit every one of those like hurdles. But yeah, this game is like, like I said, I played like a level or two by myself and was like, okay, it's cool. Yeah, it's a nice love letter, but I was like, we should play some co-op.
Oh yeah. And
as soon as I did, I was just like, I could have. We were having a little bit of internet connection issues or something. Like we kept getting disconnected in our matches or in our during our session or whatever. But if not for that, I mean, we could have easily played through that whole game that night. Like, I mean, I was just loving it.
Me too.
Like, all the different move sets and like they modernized it like just enough to where like, like a lot of old like beat 'em ups, especially the arcade style beat 'em ups, where they're trying to eat your quarters, you do your special move and you lose some health, and that's the end of it. In this game, you do your special move, you lose some health, and there's a few different versions of the special move, like whether you do it in the air or, there's just a few variations on it.
Right.
But you lose some health, but if you don't take any damage and like, if you're able to do damage to other enemies without taking damage, you're able to recover that health. Now, if you do, Randall was Mr. Risky playing as, I think his name was Floyd. He's like this kind of big buff dude with this neck arm that's awesome. He like reaches out and grabs dudes and just slams them on the ground.
Love that dude.
And Randall was just going liberal with that.
Yeah.
And like, but you can recover, but you take one lousy punch from like a little, grunt. And, you can lose your whole health bar.
I like that risk reward, man.
Yeah, we all love that risk reward. Yeah. This game is fantastic. And again, I don't have quite the experience. I've definitely played, I believe you and I have played tons of Streets of Rage 2. Yeah. I've played it on my own for sure, but we've definitely played it together before. And like, the one thing I will say about this game that doesn't quite hold up, I shouldn't say hold up, but like I do think the soundtrack is not quite as good as the previous games, and it's still solid, but that's a huge, like the Streets of Rage 2 and 3 in particular are just like some of the best soundtracks,
legendary,
not just on Genesis, but on any video game
with video games, like top tier soundtracks.
Yeah,
like,
but this one, it does feel a little bit like an imitation of those, I guess. Like the ones that are kind of like a version, like the songs that were songs that I recognize and just kind of like a new twist on it. I was like, I dug those.
Yeah,
but the ones that were original, or at least ones that I had not recognized, I was not super into. However, I believe you can change the soundtracks.
You can.
Between all three games, and one of the features that's not on the Xbox version for now, and like we talked about, complaining about the visuals a little bit, or at least being unsure about them, you can like pixelate those visuals on all the other versions, and it actually looks surprisingly good, at least on the videos I saw online. I was like, man, that actually looks sweet. You know, it kind of looks like a Sega Saturn 2D game or something. I don't know.
Which is pretty high praise, honestly.
Yeah. And especially considering it's essentially just a filter over the anime, these hand-drawn animations they did. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
So, but I really was digging this game after playing co-op especially.
Oh, yeah. I'm loving it. And I will say I really like the soundtrack. I like the new tracks.
Oh, it's solid, yeah.
Yeah. I like it so much that I pre-ordered the vinyl for this one as well.
Nice.
Like,
heck yeah.
Like, we talked about it a couple of times, Tina and I, and she's like, you got the pre-order on this vinyl, right? Yeah. It's coming. We're going to get this one. Don't worry about it.
Do you have the other ones? Because I know they've released some of those retro ones.
Yeah.
You have all three?
I don't have 3. I have 1 and 2, but it's only because I have less familiarity with Streets of Rage 3 because they kind of jacked it up when they brought it to Western markets. So, like, Streets of Rage 3, it's another one of those instances where early to mid 90s, they made it like way too difficult because they were afraid of the rental market and people beating it too quickly. So the Japanese version is like the real version, and it's less difficult and punishing than the American version. So therefore, I only had access to the American version. I really didn't play it. Like Streets of Rage 2 and 1 are kind of what I stuck with historically. So
yeah, what I will say is I've only skimmed a little bit of that Streets of Rage 3 soundtrack, and it is bizarre.
Yeah,
but it in the most awesome way. But in you in particular, John, I think would really like it. Like it is out there a little bit. Like it, I don't know. I heard a little bit. I think it was on Retronauts a long time ago. They were playing like a small section of like they did an episode or like a segment of an episode on vinyls, like retro vinyl releases or something. And they specifically highlighted this vinyl being released, and I was like, they played like some clips in between segments, and I was like, holy shit, this is like crazy. But yeah, it was really interesting. I had never heard a Genesis soundtrack, or to be honest, any retro game soundtrack that sounded anything like it.
Yeah, Yuzo Koshiro's the man. He's just like, I think that dude's kind of a music genius as far as what he does and how well he does it.
And he did do the new one as well?
He did some songs on it. Yeah, he did the main theme for Streets of Rage 4 and a few other tracks. But actually, it's a huge collection of folks that put together this soundtrack, a huge collection of composers. The other thing I did want to mention about this game, besides the fact that it just like feels amazing to play, is there's other nice little modernization touches they did, like the difficulty options. Like a couple of things. So if you lose and you're waiting to restart, you can choose to either keep playing the way you're playing, which is normal difficulty. You don't get any extra life. You don't get any extra special moves that you can use. You get these stars, and when stars are your super special move that you can use. That could be like clear the screen, or like take a good chunk of life off the boss, or whatever else. So you got like 3 or 4 options there where you can say, okay, for an extra life and maybe 1 extra star, you can go that route. The game comes a little easier to you, but you only get half of the points you would get normally for beating said level.
And those points like attribute towards unlocks, right?
Yes, they do, which is also really cool.
Yeah, it gives you an incentive to like keep going back.
It does.
Which, again, just another like testament to how they modernized like the beat 'em up genre, or wrapped it up into a package that justifies. I think it's, again, we're playing it on Game Pass, but it's $25, and I think it totally justifies that price tag. Totally justifies. I completely
agree, which is pretty high praise for a beat 'em up, which beat 'em ups could be pretty shallow, but it doesn't feel that way with this game because there's so much there. The other thing that was super cool that I liked is that, you're at the end of a level, you're facing a boss. Maybe that boss is really tough. One of you dies. You start the next level. Both of you are back again. Like you didn't run out of lives or anything else. You can just both kind of keep playing, both keep having fun. It's just level by level, and I really appreciate that.
Well, I believe if I'm not mistaken, each level you start with full lives and everything. So
it felt that way. Yeah.
I could be wrong, but there's a handful of games I've played that kind of use that structure. I feel like we've talked about one recently on the podcast. It's slipping my mind at the moment for whatever reason, probably because I'm drinking some gin and peach tea over here.
There you go.
But for whatever reason, like I really like that because you're able to balance like instead of having this like again like a beat 'em up that was originally structured for you to be pumping quarters into the machine.
Right.
There's no balance to that game,
right.
you know. So like this is like made to like, hey, the levels get progressively harder,
right,
based on you starting with a full set of lives at the start of each level. So like the balance really feels much better than it does in a lot of retro games.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And one thing I'll say as well is just like the combat in this game is so much deeper than any beat 'em up. Like, okay, you can button mash your way through this game, but like you have so many options, whether you're like midair in the middle of an attack or like you can interrupt your animations in a few cases. Like every character, there's a ton of different characters, like 5 or 6 at least so far, I think. Not to mention all the retro versions of those characters. And like some characters can sprint, some can do a little dash or like slide. But just, there's just so much versatility to the combat.
Definitely.
Like
it feels like a simplified fighting game to some degree, I would say.
Yeah. It really is cool. And I really love this game. Like the grappling mechanics and it's an awesome. It's probably the best fighting system. Even going back to the retro games. Like I love me some Turtles in Time, but man, Streets of Rage 2, I think, or Streets of Rage in general, just kind of takes the cake on the beat 'em ups as far as I'm concerned.
I completely agree, and I think I will easily say that I think 4 is like the best playing beat 'em up that I've played, and I love beat 'em ups as a genre.
I would agree. I was having so much fun when we were playing. I was virtually, that's not the word I was looking for, but I was very disappointed when our internet connection kept cutting out.
I know.
Like, man, I just want to keep going. I just want to keep going.
We will.
Yeah. We'll finish it up. I think we got through. We got 4 or 5 more levels to go.
Oh, yeah.
But speaking of games that play great and speaking of games that are also on Game Pass, I have been playing and been having a really hard time putting down Lonely Mountains Downhill. And this is a game that kind of just caught my eye because I saw a bunch of great reviews for it. Like all of a sudden it was getting 8s and 9s all over the place on all these indie sites that I follow. And it's basically like this cycling game that's kind of like low poly 3D. And I'll get into that in a second, but like, it's just like you're going downhill and there's essentially, at least as of right now, there's 4 mountains that have 4 trails each. And it's just a series of challenges. Like get down. There's like, when you start out a level, there's like a beginner's or there's like just a challenge of get to the bottom of the mountain. And there's usually like 5 to 7 checkpoints on the way down the mountain.
Okay.
And no real, on the first one you play, like when it's just the introduction to the level, it's just get to the bottom, get to the checkpoints, no matter how many times you crash, doesn't matter. And then now you unlock like the beginner set of challenges or the next layer. I forget what they're all called, but the next layer of challenges. And then it's like, okay, now get to the bottom of this trail without crashing more than 25 times. And then the slightly more difficult challenge is like less than 15 times or something. Again, with those checkpoints being in play, and then it'll be like finish this race, or it's sort of like a race, it sort of plays like a racing game, and it actually has a few different control setups, but the one that it defaults to is kind of like those old like racing games where like it has like tank controls, where you're like playing those rally racing games and you're steering around like the monster cars around the dirt pass. Like I forget what those games are called.
Like super off-road, those type of games?
Yeah, super off-road. Yeah. And so it has that control scheme, but you can also switch it to being like a 360, basically like whatever direction you're pointing the joystick, it'll turn that way. But for the most part, it throws me off once in a while, but I like the left and right tank controls kind of. But like, there's like a trail that you can follow. And for example, if you're going for one of the missions that's trying to minimize your crashes, maybe you're going to follow that trail. But for a lot of the missions, you're like, oh, here's a little shortcut. You can see like, here's the dirt path, but here's like a little grass path, the path less traveled.
Okay.
And then, oh, here's a little rock path. And you can now, I've just now unlocked a second bike that's like a little more like off-roading. So it has like better suspension. I could land from higher distances. And like, you pretty much just have, again, you can just steer, and then you have like a short speed burst, which like as soon as you just pedal harder. And I just don't know how to explain it, but if you like racing games or chasing leaderboards and high scores, because like the final challenge on each level is to beat the level without crashing at all.
Jeez.
And they're pretty long. I guess they're not that long. They're only about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes to get through a trail.
Looks pretty hard
you have
though
to get
from
through
those clips.
Oh, it's super hard. And then like after you beat the final challenge, it unlocks night mode, which is like it's all night mode, and like you just have a flashlight on your bike. But if you kind of like memorize the trail and memorize your path, and then each of these, the night mode, all these different modes have different leaderboards that you can climb. Like the level I was just trying today, I got 444 on the fastest time.
Okay.
But again, like that was the version where I was like hitting all the checkpoints and just going for the fastest time. So doesn't matter how many times I crash. I'm just going to get to that checkpoint as fast as I can. Like,
cool.
Is there another crazy shortcut I can take? But the cool thing is, like, even though you'll be at the top, if you were to get to the top of the leaderboard with the fastest time, it will show how many crashes you have. So it'll be like, I don't think that affects your ranking unless maybe you have a tie.
Someone has the same time.
But this game is just so immediately. I just can't put it down. I will be playing this for a long time. I've done some streams. I did like the first like probably 30 or 40 minutes like with no commentary, and then I did another like hour or so after I got familiar with the game. And I have put in a few more hours since. And this is just the game that like I'm sipping on my coffee. Basically, if I have nothing to do, I'm playing this game. It is the best. I know I'm Mr. Hyperbole on the podcast, but this is the best video game I've played in a long time.
You're just gonna stop the sentence at the best video
ever in my life. Screw Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. It's all about Lonely Mountains Downhill. But I'm serious though. This game is $20, and there's a few performance issues that I've run into on the Xbox. I had one time it crashed on me. But I think that's just an Xbox issue. The Xbox sucks, as we talked about with our internet connection. It wasn't my internet; it was the Xbox. It is the clunkiest platform of all of them. I'll just say that. At least in my experience. Maybe I got a lemon, but my Xbox experience has been the only console I've ever had like just kind of issues with.
At least I can hear the soundtrack. Nah, I can't say the same about PS4 with its freaking jet engine going the whole time.
That's fair. But anyways, like this, if you have Game Pass, you have to play this game. But even if you don't, you have to buy this game because it is amazing. And the thing, so it's like all low poly, and you're very reactive to the terrain, and the way they make the terrain is like, I don't know. I'm sure they didn't randomly generate it because again, like each mountain has 4 trails. But like each of those trails, you can go so far off the beaten path. It's great. Like there's so many shortcuts, and like even shortcuts that you maybe shouldn't take. But when you have the right, like now that I have this bike with more suspension, I've been taking these crazy shortcuts, and like,
that's cool.
If you just catch like the lip of like an inclined rock, it's like, oh, I soften my speed there for a quick second. Like you just have one trigger speeds you up. One trigger kind of gets you on the brakes, and like, all your bikes have different like grip, different traction, different suspension. Like I said, different speed, different all that. And you can, I don't know. This is just like, I don't know. Like I talked about on the anniversary. What's that?
It's hitting all your buttons.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just like I talked about in the anniversary episode, like Downwell. It's like that same, like totally different game. I guess you're still going down the hill, down the mountain in this case. But like it's just that immediacy of just like, I have to do better than that. And like, I have to like even just the third trail on the first mountain, there's like, you're kind of like jumping, like it's called like the rock stairs trail. And like, I mean, it is steep and you're like jumping these gaps, and like, I haven't posted any of the stuff from that. And like, it is totally different from, and then like I haven't played any of the second mountain yet, but it's like this like fall setting with like, it's like clearly like the leaves are falling. There's just so many nice little touches in this game. It's the full package. You have to play it. Lonely Mountains Downhill. You have Randall. Now that you have Game Pass, you have to play this game. I know. Please buy. I shouldn't say. I was going to say buy next week and put the gauntlet down, but I know you're super busy with work and stuff. So no gauntlet needed. But please play this game before your trial expires.
I'm going to download this for sure.
Yeah. It is amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing. I can't gush any more about this game.
Okay. All right.
But I think I could pretty much I can just be done there
for now.
But John, I know you've been kind of throwing it back a little bit and picking it. You picked up. I'm really mad I didn't pick up this game when it was on sale. But what have you been playing lately?
Yeah, so there were a couple different games that were on sale on the Switch eShop recently, and one of those
hundreds of different games.
Oh yeah. But one of them was the re-release or remastered version of the Katamari Damacy, the Reroll version of it. And Katamari Damacy has always been one of my favorite games. I never owned a PlayStation 2, but I owned a PlayStation 2 copy of Katamari Damacy.
That's great.
So that
That's
every
awesome.
single
person. I didn't know you didn't have a PS2.
Oh yeah, but it was one of those systems that like every friend had one. So no matter what apartment I lived in, there was going to be a PlayStation 2 there.
And John was a
system
GameCube
was pretty
guy.
ubiquitous. Yeah.
But yeah, that was one game that I just knew I had to own as soon as like it came out. So I picked it up and I've been playing the same PlayStation 2 copy and for years and years, like happily like starting over from scratch like every single time, because it's honestly one of my favorite games of all time, and it's just so infinitely replayable. And like I didn't really feel the need to buy it on Switch until it was like half off, and it was
66%. I think it was $10, right?
Yeah, it was $10.
Nice.
It's normally 30, so
yeah,
I know it was on sale for 10. I felt like an idiot for not buying it.
But yeah, I picked it up just because I'm not gonna like say no to having it like at my fingertips again. Like take out that extra step of loading a disc into the PlayStation 2. But
graphics are a little
it seems like
now, a little sharper now too.
Yeah, it seems like the perfect game for having like just on your system, not have it just like I'm in the mood to just like I was talking about, like just having a cup of coffee and playing some Katamari.
Mm-hmm. I will say that my biggest disappointment for it, and maybe it's just a setting that I haven't figured out, but it had the Reroll version has the original Japanese voice acting in it. And one of the things that I found so incredibly charming was the localized voice acting for the American release, where I think it was probably even the same voice actors just saying everything in English.
Oh, wow.
It's so charming, and like everything about the game is just like Keita Takahashi is the guy who created it, and also like it wasn't at the same degree of like what for Cave Story. Like I know that there is a little bit more nefarious like that dealings going on in terms of like the creator not really getting credit, but I know that Keita Takahashi has like walked away, I think, of his own want from the Katamari like legacy. I think he no longer owns the property, even though he created it. So like I knew like as soon as like that like Reroll came out, I remember he was like posting on Twitter because people were like, "Oh man, I'm so glad that I can like buy Katamari." He's like, "Cool, I didn't know that was happening."
Oh jeez. Was he involved with any of those sequels, or was he just on that first game? Do you know?
I think he was involved in We Heart Katamari.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know he made the second one,
but he's like I like there's just something like in the way that he approaches making games, because he also just came out with Watam for I think PlayStation 4.
Sounds right. Yeah.
And like he did Nobi Nobi Boy before that as well. And like there like I honestly think that like there is just like something so incredibly special about Katamari in particular, that like the way that he approaches like game design is way more abstract than other people. Like he isn't so much concerned about like, I don't know, accomplishing things in games. They're more experiences to like feel. And like I think Katamari is one of those rare ones where like the goal that he set out to create in the game also coincides with like, you know, how most people play games. And like, I think that there is like a typical, more accessible like game structure to Katamari than necessarily his later games.
Certainly more. I'm not super familiar with the most or with the latest one, but Nobi Boy definitely is like very abstract. It's just kind of like a communal experience. You know, it's all about like however far you can extend your little worm man, you can like stretch all the way to different planets as a community. I don't know. It's very abstract. Where like this is kind of wrapped in like it's got kind of an arcade feel to it. You know.
But yeah, like Katamari, like so much of it, like from the gameplay itself, which is just so like instantly satisfying, like just rolling over something bigger and then just becoming bigger, and then you can roll over bigger things and like that. It's just such a joy, an instant joy to do. And then like the atmosphere of like the humor in the game and the like
you're rolling over
soundtrack.
Cats and like pins and all kinds of stuff.
And like once you get into larger areas, then you see like those like items in increasingly absurd positions. Like there you have like just an entire field full of watermelon, or like just people stacked on top of people and they're holding up a house together. Like everything is just so like funny on like a surface level, and then also like just as in terms of like, you know, the actual dialogue between you and the King of Cosmos. Like that's and then the soundtrack is just so incredible. Like of like
it's amazing.
The best.
I downloaded the demo for this game because there is a demo at least on Switch, and even just like watching the intro screen, I don't even think I got around to playing the demo because like by the time it was off sale, I was just like, I'm just gonna delete this demo so that I don't play it and spend $30 when I'm unemployed right now. But like just booting up the demo, I remember when I watched that intro sequence, I was just like, this game is awesome. Like even if just for the soundtrack it's worth $10.
This is another one of the vinyls that I own. Is the
damn it, Randall, you gotta start posting some pictures of those vinyls or something.
I honestly only have like 6 or 7 of them.
What
they
do
just
you mean
keep coming
6?
up.
Every game we talk about, you're like, oh yeah, I got that on vinyl.
How many? How many LPs
I actually
is
pressed
that?
this one myself.
Is that a double album or is it
2.
just one?
Yeah, I think it's 2.
Yeah,
2.
It's been a while since I've pulled that sucker out, but yeah.
Because
I go ahead.
No, I was just looking at I was going through like the collection screen before we were recording, and like I got to the soundtrack or the music player, and there's so many tracks on that.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. Real quick, since we're talking about music, I know we always save music for last when we're talking about each game, and not to end this conversation on what we're talking about, but one of the cool things about Lonely Mountains Downhill that I didn't mention is that there's no soundtrack. It is pure atmosphere, which like if you watch the trailer for the game, there's like this No Cigar Millencolin ripoff, like so bad. It is the same riff. Like if vocals came in, maybe vocals do come in, but I didn't watch enough of it. But like if they do come in, like it's just unbelievable. And now that Tony Hawk 1 and 2 just got HD remaster announcement, like I don't know, it's just a shameless ripoff. But the thing I'm more mad about is that it just totally sets the wrong tone for the game. Like having no music, it's like I love getting just sucked in. Like a podcast will end, and even though there's nothing going on, I'm so sucked into this game that I just play for like an hour. I play for an hour just getting to like try to get to the one checkpoint in a faster time. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but probably like 20-30 minutes of just like, oh wait, is that way a little shorter? Like this game is amazing, but I don't want to go back to that. But I just feel bad that I didn't mention, because I feel like that's like number one. It's a little misleading in the trailer, and it's also just it's a really, to me, a selling point. It's like a really calming, like, you know, some of these really difficult games have like a zen quality to them.
Oh sure.
Yeah. But anyways, not to get sidetracked, John.
Not to shoehorn in, but
quality
not
to it.
Not to talk more about Lonely Mountains Downhill. See our Twitter feed. But yeah, John, do you have anything more to add on that, or?
No, not really.
Fair enough. Well, I'm sorry to sidetrack us there, but I guess just before we wrap up today, Randall and I were both able to finish again. Well, at least for me, thanks to my Game Pass subscription. I think Randall, as always, has the cartridge and the vinyl. Like always, he's got the physical media.
Yep.
And but we both were able to polish off SteamWorld Dig 2 since we last talked about it.
Yeah.
And at least for me, I guess I was closer than I thought to the ending. I mean, kind of like Piku Niku and a couple of other games I've talked about on the podcast. It kind of ended not as abruptly as Piku Niku, but a little bit like I was left wanting a little bit more, which is never a bad thing. It's always good to, like, an album ends or a movie ends and you have more questions, or, you know, that's not a bad thing to leave you wanting more.
Right.
It certainly is the sign of a good experience, but like I was a little bit it had a little bit of a lackluster. I think, there's only like one or two boss battles in the whole game. I just kind of felt like it was leading to this huge epic adventure, and it just kind of ended on me. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's a very small gripe. I already feel bad that I led with that, because I really had a great time with this game. I everything about it, the soundtrack, it's as I've mentioned a couple times about a few games already, but this game is just the whole package. It's the total package.
It is, and I had a great time with it too. I'd put about like 10 and a half hours in it, and I kind of felt the same way. It's like the game kind of decided, like, okay, we're wrapping up, and it's like boom, 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 and it's like, okay, it's over. Like, dang, okay, I could have played more, and of course you can play more. Like, there's obviously more secrets to find and everything else, which is great. Like, if you want more out of it, you can go back and find those secrets and find more cogs or whatever else. But you guys, when we were talking last time, you were talking about like this jetpack ability where you could break through the blocks, the light sand blocks. I never even got that, and I beat the game.
Really?
Yeah. So like,
interesting.
Okay.
Because that actually felt essential to me at a couple points. There was definitely a few sections that I felt like I had to use that. Maybe I just went a different route. I mean, that kind of speaks to the versatility of this game, I guess.
Totally. But, for me, I think what helped make up the difference is with the skill tree of the upgrades of different stuff. I upgraded the water cannon enough where you could shoot while you were in the air, and I think that made up the difference for me.
And I think we talked about that on the last episode. Like, you can't do anything when you're in the air. Yeah. You still can't use your pickaxe in the air, but you can shoot your water bombs when you're in the air. But yeah, I really loved my time with this game. It was almost like I felt like I got gypped, because I got cut short. My experience got ripped away from me. But yeah, I really had a great time with this game. I would honestly be happy if I owned the cartridge of it, but happy to just be able to play it on Game Pass, obviously. But yeah, I don't want to just keep beating that horse, but it's a great game. Great game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I loved my experience with it, and glad to see the credits. And it's thanks to this podcast that I did. Honestly, I'm like, yeah, let me keep playing that because I'm just enjoying it. And like, boom. Yeah.
I was actually, that's funny you mentioned that, because I meant to, I didn't get a chance to, but I meant to look at our John keeps a nice little spreadsheet for us, and like of all the games we've talked about on all the episodes, which is like getting close to 200, if not over.
We're over
right?
200.
Oh,
okay,
geez.
We're over 200 now, and I was like thinking of making a list of like how many games have I beaten since we started the podcast. And one of the games I've beaten since we started the podcast, which I'm not going to talk about until next week, but is actually the reason I signed up for Game Pass, was Creature in the Well. It's kind of like this dungeon crawler pinball game, and it just looks so cool, and it was on Game Pass the day it came out, and I was like about to buy it on the Switch because it was like 10% off, and I was like, I could pay $1 for this Game Pass trial and play this game right now. And then I never really did because it was on my PC. But again, I'll get into that next week. It was a really cool experience, though. Definitely worth checking out. Like a soft recommendation, or a medium recommendation, and definitely a recommendation if you have Game Pass.
Save it for the next episode, Kevin.
Exactly. I'm trying to give a little teaser for like, hey, you got a week to play this game. If you have Game Pass, and if you've listened to if you're listening to the episode. But I think we can wrap it up for this week for the time being, and we'll be back next Monday as always. And again, you can find us on a bunch of, we're pretty much everywhere these days. I got our Facebook activated. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitch, especially a little bit more lately. Especially, I'll be playing Lonely Mountains Downhill a couple more times, I'm sure. YouTube. All the links are in our episode descriptions with timestamps as well. Like if you're worried about spoilers, or if you're worried about I don't know, if you're just like, I don't give a shit about this game, you can skip right over it. Just there's the timestamps right there for you. Or if you're just curious about one thing. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. Again, happy to move into the next year with you guys, and looking forward to playing a bunch of more games, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Yeah.
Take care.
And come see us on Discord too. Bye-bye.
See ya. My family kept gifting us infusers as stocking stuffers.
Hey.
So we just have there's only 2 of us in this household. We're never going to be making 8 different types of tea at once.
Yeah.
Hey.
My problem with those infusers is I don't wash them often enough, and then after enough time I'm like, I'm not using that anymore.
Ugh.
And then it's just done.
Yeah.
And then I stop making tea.
Right.
Or you could go the real lazy man's route and just dump the loose leaf and just keep it at the bottom of the bottom of the cup like a Neanderthal.
There you go.
Ugh.
Start eating some tea.
That's when you know you've hit the end.